Hello, Reese. Sandwich BR, Reese. A little bit of a delay there. I think there's a slight time delay as well on the
Right.
broadcast. So anybody who's watching, any of our thousands and millions of viewers, bear with
Mm.
us with that. We were hoping to have Fergus coming along with us there. um, he hasn't appeared yet, but we'll have to go ahead. The show must go on, Karen. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Uh,
So,
yeah, we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk tonight about we were planning to talk about the thing in Balbriggan and also that stabbing of the young girl in Balbriggan. I was listening
yeah,
to the radio interview. But we also we're going to talk about something that you've been following quite closely, scale of V2 Iglanovich, Karen, about the Italian restaurant people who
yeah,
were bravely defying the lockdown in some
yes.
sort of civil disobedience protest. Now, I actually was looking into that again today myself. And we'll have to talk about the Trump thing. We can't avoid Donald, who was
Yeah.
the inauguration of the woke
Excuse me.
liberals. We can't avoid that. It's obviously the week that's in it. And shocked on a on. But so we'll give that a bit of airtime. But we'll talk about the issue that you've been following very closely, the Italian thing with the restaurants. Now, I read about it today again, and they were saying that some of the guys involved says it's it's not so much of a mass civil disobedience protest. Some of them actually just called it a polite protest.
Hmm.
Uh, they're just trying to
Polite.
make, yeah, that's what they said. They tried to say it
Hmm.
was not a full scale protest. My question is, I'm hoping, I mean, something needs to be done because this lockdown is, we're going to be here for the long haul.
Hmm.
They've said that in the north, they said today, this is going to be here to March, maybe even April. So you know what that means? March. If they say March, that means it's going to be that means April.
Yeah.
So something needs to be done, and I was interested in the idea of that civil disobedience. How do you think there'll be any traction with that, or what's your take on that one, Karen? Tell us.
Well, I mean, the last couple of days, or maybe the past week, I've seen a post going around for the an Irish. Love your cup. When are you going to buy me one?
Yes.
But it's going to
I'll get
happen
you
on
one.
the
I will
third.
get you one. You email one.
Yeah.
You email Sean Rich. Okay.
On the 30th of January of this year, which is Saturday week, is going to be one. Now, I don't know how it's going to spread. I don't know if it's going to be a Dublin thing or a national thing. They're calling for all the retail, the pubs and the gyms to go out and open their doors. Now, I'm all for civil disobedience done in a peaceful way. From 5 years ago, I've done it myself plenty of times on the water charges, and it can be done and it is very effective. But this time round is harder because you're dealing with people's businesses, you're dealing with people's livelihoods, and people are more scared than they were 5 years ago. Before it was out in the streets and you're blocking cars and things like that outside the door. Now this is different. It's harder, and there's fines and there's jail time, and people are not going to jump on the bandwagon. Now, what happened in Poland and Italy in the last week, well, the last weekend, um, I always find that Ireland is always slow to do that. I mean, it happens in Europe and then it kind of spreads. So it might take a while for Ireland to do it. But it has to be done in an organised way. My concern would be that like any retailers, any employers would be afraid to do it because of the fines. Now they're getting paid at the moment. That money's going to run out eventually. It's going to you're not really owning your business when you're constantly getting payments from the government. So they're relying on that, and they might not jump on the bandwagon until the money is going to be cut off or it's going to be reduced in some way. So my concern would be, will it really take off on the 30th of January? It's great to see it happening in Italy and Poland. There's some backbone there, and we need to kind of take courage from that. But I don't know the police. I mean, I don't know if you've seen what the response is of the police. What I've heard is they did go into one of the bars and they were shoved out the door by the locals, and that was it. They were booed out of it. So I think maybe that was strong. Maybe they wouldn't really arrest people if there's that much of like a response. We'd need not just the owners of the premises, but the public. The public need to be in the pub or the gym, and they need to be behind the retailers. It's not just the owner standing on the door by themselves with their staff. They need the public behind them. However, there's two groups in Ireland that really, you won't always get the support from the public, not from what I'm hearing, because people may give up with the lockdown, not getting their hair done, not being able to go to a pub, whatever, but yet they agree with the lockdown. Now that's really, it's not great thinking. I don't understand why you'd either agree with a lockdown and then still give out about the pub not being open and, life going on as normal. But so you're kind of getting the group who do agree with the lockdown, who are concerned about the spread of the disease, and then you have us and people like us who do and would grant support. So you may get a split there. So you might not get the public sympathy everywhere. You might get in the cities, you might not. So that's the other thing. The other thing I think, if we as a party were going out to support this kind of campaign, you would have to have some kind of strategy. In a sense that legal advice. How do we deal with the police when they come to the door?
Well, it's a good question. But
sorry?
They used to have the unionists up north were very good at civil disobedience.
Right.
They did it back in the Anglo-Irish Agreement. There was the civil disobedience. There was widespread road blockings and not paying of rates and not paying of this and that and fines and all things like that. The thinking being, if everybody's doing it, they can't put everybody into jail. So
yes, exactly.
You basically need to have it widespread, and
exactly.
I don't know.
Work, yeah.
So it's going to be difficult. I don't know if the traction is going to be there. I don't know what it's public opinion at the minute is probably still behind this lockdown. I mean, I watched.
That's the problem.
Yeah, I watched the news up north, the Ulster News earlier, and it's very predictable. They announced that we're going to have the lockdown is going to be extended. It reminds me of Theresa May just arbitrarily extending the Brexit deadline, just like that.
Yeah.
Just like that. And then before Johnson eventually got something done, but they announced that there's going to be another massive extension to this lockdown. And then they put on the story just after it, of the woman who's 46 years old, who tragically died of COVID. But they put that on after it just to say to everybody, this is why you have to have the lockdown. Yeah. To me, that's just
manipulation.
That's emotional manipulation and emotional blackmail.
Yeah.
So that's why they do it. And then when they put that up, you can't really blame people for being pro-lockdown.
Yeah.
So notwithstanding the fact that nobody can get doing anything, nobody can get playing golf or going to the funerals or absolutely anything. So need to get a campaign out there. But
I mean, I like your go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say you're talking with the unions there. At least your unions are open to that kind of action. But I don't see that down here.
It was the unionists. It was the unionists.
Oh, the unionists. Okay, sorry, beg your pardon. But even with unions, like the trade unions, they're very much buying into this, and even working in the public sector and public health sector, they're pro lockdowns, pro restrictions, and you wouldn't get much a way of supporting any retail, even the likes of Mandate, who are the retail trade union. They'll help you if you're having problems with getting a pay increase, but that's where it'll end. Yeah. So you wouldn't see them supporting their.
What I thought was that this is the only dissenting voice against the lockdown in the north was Edwin Poots of the DUP, and the sad fact is that he just said yesterday he's got cancer. So and he's saying now, because COVID, you will not get treated for cancer in the health service, you have to go private. So that's an irony above all ironies, isn't it? So even so there's no dissenting voice. There's just there's no dissenting voice against lockdown at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know how far that Italian thing's going to go. But anyway, look, we'll talk about the you've been following the Balbriggan story as well, with the young woman that was attacked. I listened to the radio interview. Again, the media weren't really covering it, were they? About how bad Balbriggan's got?
Yeah, and they didn't. I was talking to a friend of mine about that, and she was saying that they said the description of the men who done it was they were youths, not black youth or white youths. Yeah.
Well, she did say on the radio one of them was black and the other ones were coloured. She did say that on the radio.
Yeah, but depends on which radio, like, which way you're listening to. And I don't know what radio station she was listening to, but it's not widely spread. Like, you need to be saying a good description. You shouldn't be afraid to say they're black or they're white, what age they are, where they live, and things like that. Because at the end of the day, you have to tell the truth and give a better picture. There's some judgment around, people who walk in the park at night. And I said, well, the woman is in the area. She works and lives in the area. She's a community worker, and she knows the area well. She often be out in this area. So talking to colleagues,
Hey, Fergus.
they were very judgmental. Hello, Fergus. How are you?
How you doing, guys? Sincere apologies. I've been tearing my hair out with looking for a link that was right in front of me, but I just didn't know it was there. Okay.
That's all right.
All right. Fergus, I know there's no barbers. Fergus, I know there's no barbers on, but you don't need to tear the hair out. You can get it. Is that because of the lockdown?
Yeah, it is. You want to see the contortions I go through to try and use my Argos blade. Yeah, it's not pretty.
Oh, right.
Mm.
But I've been listening. I've been listening to you guys so far, and it's I always enjoy
I know. You have to go right. Yeah. But Karen, we're interrupting.
No, go ahead, Fergus. Go ahead. What was
all right.
There? No, sorry, Karen.
Listen, Fergus. We talked. I'm sure you heard it there. We'd moved off it, but we talked briefly about the Italian thing.
Yeah. I gotta say,
what do you think, Fergus, about the Italian lockdown, the breach of the lockdown?
Well, from what little I know about it, I think it's localized up around a particular region, Tyrol, but it's possibly spreading wider than that. And I think fair play. These are people whose livelihoods are being destroyed by this lockdown. So you've got to sympathise with them.
You're breaking up a bit.
These are people who are, their livelihoods are being destroyed by this lockdown. So it's understandable that they're so angry about the way things have gone. This seems to be just a never-ending shit show.
But the thing is, with self-employed, when you're self-employed, it's your passion. It's not just a job in a factory. You're destroying the livelihood. You're also destroying the dream they have. Like, a cafe or a restaurant or, or a bar or whatever it is. You're destroying two things, really. Somebody who's put their heart and soul and mind into, and their money and their, you know what I mean? Everything they have. And they're responsible for a lot. But I was talking to, before we move back to the Balbriggan story, I was talking to taxi drivers before and after Christmas, and they're not getting anything. And you're talking, Cottle, about the strategy. We could hopefully maybe talk to taxi drivers and maybe link them in with the hospitality industry to get support, to get rally, to get two groups together, because we have a group of people who are strongly linked to that, because they depend on a certain amount of people using that service to kind of get home in the evening because you can't drink and drive and things like that. So if you got that kind of group together, because they don't get anything. I've been speaking to them twice, and they've been quite receptive to our message about leaflets and things like that. And we see every business as an essential business. So they're very open to that. But it's a matter of giving them confidence and a strategy of how to deal with the guards, an agreement, a day, a time, an agreement on how to, peacefully and politely deal with the guards. Good strategy. And what happens next? We get get fined, and then they agree not to pay, and what do we go from there? So it's something we need to think about. If something happens on a Saturday, we can look at that and then maybe use that going forward. But if you want to go back to the Balbriggan, that's fine. Unless you have something else to say about that, Fergus or Carl.
I'm
So I missed. I lost connection there, so I missed a bit of that.
Sure, but just on the Balbriggan thing,
right.
It's very, very unfortunate to hear of anybody being attacked, particularly a woman. And am I right in saying she was with her child as well?
I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, it's just it's shocking.
No, she wasn't. She is a mother.
Oh, but she is a mother. Okay.
Yeah.
nobody wants to be to feel that kind of fear just walking through a park. I mean, it's terrible. And I think one of the big letdowns over the last couple of years has been lots of these communities have just been put to one side. People talk, there are no problems there, and the mantra goes out, and all the media, there are no problems there. We've all seen and heard about certain individuals, high-profile media people saying there are no problems in Balbriggan. Well, we've all seen the videos. I mean, you don't see those videos on RTE, or you don't see them on news, heard about them on News Talk. I don't know. I don't have an answer to this, but it's just, I think there's a herd mentality within the media not to talk about certain issues that might cause upset. And what does that do for the people who live there? It doesn't matter whether they're Irish or they're any other people from anywhere. Nobody needs to live in a community like that. It's not a community if that's the way they're expected to live.
That's true. And if you don't report on something truthfully, you're leaving people unsafe, and that they don't know maybe they don't even know what's going on in their communities. So maybe a certain area, in Dublin or Cork or whatever. And if you don't report on it locally as well, the papers locally as well as on radio and nationally.
Sure. And I lived until relatively recently. I kind of lived out in the Clonee area, which was the subject of another event a couple of weeks ago, which was underplayed on the media. And I lived right beside where that petrol station was, where we saw mob violence on the street. And the people who live around there are decent, fine, hard-working people. They don't deserve to have that type of shite on their doorstep.
Yeah.
But it's tolerated by certain people, and that's it. Good luck.
Goodness.
There's nothing to be said. I mean, politicians fail. There's certain high-profile people who have an opinion about everything, and yet when it comes to something like that, they seem to be deathly silent.
It all comes back to what I said before. We're afraid to say the word. Somebody got shot because they were. It's all about racism. I'm afraid to say the word. The person that was black who attacked the person, or they were a victim of a crime, and we don't want to say that word. Why are we afraid to say it? And then we're called racist when we do, and call it like it is. If I'm attacked in the street by a white man, that's fine. Say it. If he's in his 30s, but living in Dublin or Drogheda, he's a white man from that area, and the same he's a black man from that area. And if I attack somebody, it's a white woman from that area attacks somebody else. Say it like it is. There's no shame in it. Because if it was a serial amount of attacks happening every time, you'd have to warn the public to keep them safe. Now, I do see, I saw a little bit of judgment around, like you're talking about the attack itself, but there's a fine line between keeping safe, like walking through the park at night and walking through the park at day. But there's a certain amount of judgment I'm seeing among, women in particular. Oh, I wouldn't go near a park at night. But what if it was a park that was well populated, an area that was known well and there was never any trouble? And you always felt safe walking through there. I feel safe in this town. There's some places I probably wouldn't go near, but I felt quite safe walking through this town at night and any time of night. But yes, that curtails my freedom. If somebody has his fears imposed on me, don't go near that park at night, or don't go near that. So it's kind of like there's a judgment there sometimes that's probably unnecessary. That it kind of spreads the fear, and there's nothing there. So I think. I got the impression that some of the people, even in my office, were saying, you don't go near that, you don't do that at night anyway. And I go, well, that's a bit silly. It's like you're curtailing your freedom, and there's no fear. There's a fine line there, isn't there?
At the end of the day, though, personal safety is all about people taking responsibility. So, we've kind of, I've personally witnessed people being mugged on the streets in New York, and there were dozens of people standing there walking past it. There's been stories about people being sexually assaulted in London at Regent's Park. A woman in broad daylight was pulled into the park, and the rest, we all know what happened. But so people need to try and be as safe as they reasonably can. And it's unfortunate that this isn't a modern phenomenon. This has been going on for 30, 40 years. But I think now there's a kind of tendency with social media as well to blow these things wide open, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not a good thing either. I don't know. I'm not saying that people should control what's said, but I think people do need to take an awful lot of personal responsibility. And but at the end of the day, criminals are criminals. They're out there. So we should be able to call them out when we see them and call them and define them as whatever they are, like whether they're Irish, whether it's fellas who wear glasses. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Cathal there, not me. Cathal, your line is very intermittent. You're kind of hopping around there, but are we going to get on to Biden?
Yeah. I'll have to plead. I know it's terrible. Yeah, I can't have to. Yeah, apologies. Yeah, well, I agree with what you're saying there about about that. We have to just call out things. If the person is black, white, or yellow or whatever, we have to just mention what they are, not be afraid of it. But yeah, the Trump Biden thing. Again, the media. I just watched it. I don't know about you, but Biden is what he is. But the one that I really dislike is Harris. I can't stand her. I find her very, very irritating and patronizing and smug. I remember when she phoned up old Biden and says, "We got it, Joe. We got it. You're gonna be president."
Yeah.
I just thought that was so nauseating. You know, it's like I told you so. And she's just waiting to get Biden bundled out of the road. He's not going to last 2 years, and she's going to be in there, isn't it?
She'll be the first president as well, female president. I mean, yeah.
That's what I think. She's got her eyes on it. He's going to get bundled out of the way. Like he's not wasting any time. He's already just got rid of the travel ban. I mean, you've got full-on globalism coming your way in America, haven't you?
Yeah,
absolutely, they have. Yeah, and one of the first things he did as well, which I think has been now, I have to say I don't watch RTE anymore. I've given them up a long, long time ago. But I wonder, was it covered today? One of the first executive orders that he signed was allowing men to participate in female sports. I mean, I don't know what I presume they're transgendered people or whatever, but it's this is no disrespect to people who are transgender. I wish them all the very best with their lives, but you know, competing in women's sports are for women, and that's it. And
I want to say, I mean, your physicality is different. Even if you are transgender,
that's right. It's just cheating.
It's cheating.
Yeah,
it's cheating, and it's not fair on the women who. I mean, it's obviously different. Like records set.
I mean, you can put it this way. You can put it this way. It's just cheating. It's just cheating.
It is.
It's just before I came on, Biden did make it mandatory for everybody to wear masks in federal business and federal buildings. Now that's going to spread out into the street, and then it's going to be beyond the 100 days that he's saying. So, they have walked themselves into trouble. It's going to be pure communism from once he starts, and the Americans are going to suffer, and they'll be saying, "What the hell did we do?" And you said earlier on today that hopefully Trump will continue the fight. He's 4 years to kind of get back into the track again. I'm hoping maybe if he doesn't do it, his son will do it, or somebody in his family will do it. To get it back again, because it's going to be a war in the first year.
Well, in 2 years, he could be the nominee in 2 years. So I wouldn't give up. I wouldn't give up hope. He's got 2 years. I mean, it's only 2 years, and he can be back as the nominee. So it's not that far away,
Yeah, still. And he could continue the momentum.
I mean, somebody made a very interesting point there. White Marsh. Harris said she believed those who accused Biden of molestation. I mean, what does that say? It's a very good point. I mean, I just think it's a total sideshow. She doesn't believe in Biden at all. She wants him out of the road, so she wants her hands on it.
Mm.
But I mean, they talked about this, something that they kept saying about Trump's presidency. It was a turbulent presidency. Well, it was turbulent because the media didn't like him and they wanted to torpedo him at every juncture. But how many wars did he start? None. Look at George W. Bush. How many innocent Muslims did George Bush murder in the Iraq War? Yet he's looked on as a good old boy, good old George. He was a monster. And Trump didn't start. He signed peace deals, but he's called turbulent. You know, this is the media narrative again.
One thing
I think Trump's been Trump is treated very harshly by the media, and I think history will actually treat Trump quite kindly in retrospect. Sorry, Fergus, go on ahead.
I agree with you on that, Cathal. It's the media now have their guy, so you know this is all. There's a great book written by a guy called Ben Shapiro over in the States who has written about the way the impact or the influence that leftists have in Hollywood and in the media generally, and it's actually very, very true. If you look at the themes through lots of these TV shows and what have you that are puked at people daily, it's all about pushing an agenda, and this is the whole. This is a media. The media are one of the weapons that are used against people who I like to think I talk common sense. Tony O'Toole there is saying he loves listening to people who talk sense. Hard to find these days. That's Cathal and Karen, Tony. It's not me. But anyway, but I do think. I was going to say Karen.
No, it's everybody's president. It's everybody. It's everybody's
Yes. Thank you, Tony.
But we are treading water here with Joe Biden. I mean, the man, how the guy ever got elected in the first place, it beggars belief. He got a higher level of polling than Obama ever did. Now that in itself is a little bit, I don't know. But I have to say, yes, I'm a big Trump fan, but I do think he overplayed it towards the end. Look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think the writing was on the wall probably from early December, and he should have just, you know. But I do think he
probably, yeah.
I said to my sister lives over in New Jersey, and I had said to her, I hope he burns the shithouse down before he leaves. I didn't quite intend it the way that it kind of panned out, and I do think he's getting the blame. It's a very useful. What happened was very useful to those who wish to do down his legacy, if you will, and I don't really think he was to blame for it. But people died, and the book, unfortunately, stops with him. But I do hope there's an investigation, and because anecdotally, there's an awful lot of the people who were involved in that were actually Antifa. They were people who were there causing trouble. And there's video footage of people trying to break in windows and someone in the crowd shouting, "That guy's not one of us. He's from Antifa," or whatever the phrase was. And you see somebody body check this guy to the ground trying to stop him breaking the window. But I don't know whether, and this is real video footage, but I don't know what level of investigation the authorities do in the States about this stuff. One of the good things that Trump did was he threw that guy Comey out the door of the FBI, because clearly the FBI is riddled with corruption. I mean, there's no question of that. They're a joke organization, and Trump, if nothing else, has proven it. He's also proven that the media cannot be trusted in the USA or, in fact, anywhere else. And if that's his legacy, I actually think he had 4 years. His 4-year legacy was brilliant.
But what do we do with Biden and Harris on the show? Like, it might undo the work that Trump has done, like, with wars.
Yeah.
We can't really do anything.
I think it is. I agree with you there, Fergus. Sorry, Carl. I'll just say I agree with what Fergus was saying there. I think Trump did overplay it maybe a wee bit at the end. I mean, Douglas Murray did make a very good point. I mean, he's a guy who's largely on the right, kind of, and he made a point that maybe Trump did overplay it and should have perhaps admitted defeat when it looked like the evidence wasn't forthcoming. And Murray got slagged off for that. But I think it might have been better for Trump to do that, because they didn't really produce the smoking gun. Like, we all know there's fraud in that.
Yeah.
But when he didn't get the the smoking gun out there early, it was looking like the writing was on the wall. And I thought that what we're going to get with Biden, Karen, I think, is just a load of blarney. You're going to get his coronation. You're going to get his lap of honour trip to Ireland. He's going to be playing up all of that and saying that he's a big friend to Ireland. When I don't see it, I think that's just blarney. You know, it's like Hillary Clinton. Thank God Trump got in there. Hillary Clinton would have just done a 4-year trip around the world as the first woman president. You know.
Yeah.
Go on ahead, Karen. Karen, you were going to say.
No, I mean, I'm just concerned that all the work with peace and bringing in America's Midwest and getting them working and all that kind of thing, you know, is going to be undone with this guy and Harris. And like, you know, unfortunately, Trump, I know he's only 4 years, and he done a lot in 4 years compared to the rest of them, and he kept peace and he done all of that. But he didn't bring the American, like the likes of Google and Facebook back home like he said he would. I know you have to kind of pick your battles, but unfortunately that didn't happen. And like a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with that in Ireland because they give us so many jobs. But look at the trouble they're causing us, you know, censorship and everything else, you know. And they should have like pulled them out, bring them back home, and you know, keep the jobs in America where they come from. And that also builds up an own industry.
In hindsight, Karen, you're dead right. In hindsight, the one big failing of Donald Trump was that he didn't nail those guys in year one, because they got him. They got him. There's no question of that. I mean, he was he was a Twitter president, and Twitter. I think they knew 6 months ago what they were going to do, and they waited and they timed it tactically to get him, and they got him. And considering what's in here for the next 4, possibly 8 years, whatever it is, and then with Kamala Harris after that, possibly another 4 after, I don't know, we could have 15 years worth of crap coming down the line. Jesus. And that's dangerous.
Well, unless we get Trump comes back or his son stands or whatever, you know.
He'll be a bit on the older side. I'm not sure what age he is.
But I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, Bernie Sanders, he ran again, and they're older than Trump and Biden himself. So I think if Trump has the energy, I think he could have another go at it.
And he is. There was somebody did a before and after photograph of presidents over the last number of years. Like, you know, say, for example, Jimmy Carter when he went in, from when he came out, George H.W. Bush, when he in and out, and Clinton in particular. Clinton was haggard when he came out after 8 years, and George W. Bush is no better, and Barack Obama, I think, looks like Yoda now. It's just, but Trump seems to have come out of it looking almost as he did on day one. 4 years ago.
Yeah, he hasn't changed.
Hasn't changed.
Obama's ears got bigger. I think.
What do you say? His hair.
His ears
got bigger.
His legs. Yeah.
No, but I think something's all right. I think he's got energy for it. You know, he'll play a bit of golf for a while now and he'll come back.
And for a man who's so, like, he'd always got stick over being a little bit on the tubby side, but it certainly has stood him well. And he famously operates on probably about 4 hours sleep a night. So,
like Thatcher,
Yeah, but can I put in on your train of thought here? I want to put something to you guys. Whatever about President Trump, Melania Trump took absolute dog's abuse for 4 years. She was laughed at, scorned. People just turned on her. She never got she didn't get a fair break. And I was talking to somebody maybe 2 or 3 years ago and this person mocked Melania's accent to me about the way she speaks and so on. And in the next breath, slagged off Donald Trump over his policies on migration. And the point I'm trying to make, and I tweeted about this earlier on today, the hypocrisy of many people. They don't see what they themselves are guilty of. They accuse everybody else of being one thing or the other, and yet they themselves are guilty of it. What do you guys think Melania Trump brought to the office? I personally think she was a very glamorous and...
I thought she brought dignity. I thought she brought some quiet dignity. I thought she did her job very, very well. And I thought she wasn't treated very well by the media. I didn't follow it as closely maybe as some did, but in that regard. But I thought I had no complaints about her. Karen?
Mm.
Well, she's obviously graceful. She didn't obviously, despite all the grief she got, took it gracefully. But if you remember back in the day when the Trump was first in the White House, his daughter, she was very involved in politics, and the media came after her a lot. He's nearly forced to put her in the back seat. And
Yeah.
I'm seeing his children, like his son, John Trump Jr. He could be a possible candidate. Like, even if his father didn't do it, and he's quite vocal and he'd be, energetic. Like, he's in his 50s, I'd say. I don't know what's his daughter's name again.
Ivanka.
Yeah.
Ivanka.
But I could see her as a possibility. There are possibilities. They would have the drive.
Yeah. He has another daughter
and
as
you'd
well.
have a woman, you see.
Yeah.
And being a woman would help as well, because if it was Trump, if Trump goes again against Harris in 4 years, it's going to be man versus woman, white versus black. It's going to be warfare, So, like, if Trump's daughter went, that would be interesting,
Brilliant. Yeah.
But I mean, I'll make this point. Trump said he was the president for America. Exactly what he should be. Biden's talking about being the president for the whole world. That's not what his job is. His job is responsible to the American taxpayer.
Yeah, the American people.
Yeah,
exactly.
One country at a time. Yeah. One country only.
Plus, it's ironic that he's calling for the unity, and he and the rest of them spent 4 years promoting disunity and downright aggression all over the place, specifically to bring Donald Trump down. I mean, there was a riot at the Houses of Congress last week.
And they got their way.
Sorry, what was that?
There were riots. They were called riots at the Houses of Congress.
And the Antifa thing was all right. What was that?
And last year, the year before,
the thing about Trump as well.
Peaceful protests. Yeah.
Have a time lag there. What are we saying there?
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, the thing about Trump, remember when the right-wing violence was going on in Charleston with the car going up the road and it killed a couple of people? Trump came out and rightly condemned that, but he also condemned the Antifa violence as well, and he got slagged off for that. He was even-handed and condemned all violence, so he can't win. No matter what he does, he can't win.
And he told people to go home.
Antifa is largely is more dangerous than the right-wing violence by numbers, and the BLM, right?
Yeah, it's frightening to think that the level of influence.
And then they doorstepped him with the Proud Boys. I mean, and they said he wouldn't condemn the Proud Boys. I never heard of the Proud Boys before that.
What? Are they part of Antifa?
Yeah. I thought the Proud Boys were like a frat club or something, a drinking club.
Yeah. They'd be the opposite of. They'd be the anti-Antifa. And they issued,
boys were the right wing.
Yeah, they issued statements before the inauguration saying they were not going to be there on the day.
I think it's a bad time lag here, folks.
Yeah.
Remember, they asked Trump to condemn the Proud Boys, and he said, "Proud Boys, stand back and stand by."
Right. But I mean, I'm seeing more of an influence on Antifa in the future. If they can go into the White House or to the Capitol Hill the way they did, with the help of the police, God only knows what they'll do. With Biden. That's what I'd be afraid. I'm afraid there'll be more violence, not just in other countries, but on the streets. And the people who gained under Trump with a better lifestyle, more jobs in the Midwest, and they're going to see more taxes, and they're going to see it. I mean, it might not happen, but I'm feeling that it'll go backwards. They've gained in 4 years, but they'll go back, or they'll stand still at least. They won't gain. So if you had no job before Trump and then had a job when Trump came on board and got a new job in a factory or whatever, you're going to see that change. Because Biden won't want you working because he'll have everybody, depending on the state where he is here, in and out of lockdown and communism. You know, and that frightens the hell out of me. I don't frighten me, but I have to say it frightens me, because every time I hear about more lockdowns and the latest nonsense about how it's spreading, and you know, I mean, you're saying
Yeah.
yourself, it's going to March and April. That's going to be driven. Everyone's going to be looking to America. What are they doing? And then it's going to come here. So it's like, yes, we're going to be looking at America for a lot of things again, but it's going to be very negative, unfortunately.
I think
You know?
here though they're tending in the first instance to look to the EU, and you know it's funny because I'm not 100% certain about this, but I always thought that the EU did not have competence in the area of public health, but yet we seem to be looking to Brussels for guidance on how we tackle life and death here in Ireland. And I don't see what the hell it's got to do with them. I mean, let them worry about their own individual countries, be it Belgium, be it Germany or whatever. But the Germans have absolutely happily looked after number one, because they've gone and siphoned up, I think, another 30 million doses of something on the sly. And then word of that has gone out. So on the one hand, we're being told that we have to do it through the EU, but the Germans don't have to do it through the EU. They can go off and do an end run. And that's what I'm telling you is factually true. They've done it, and it's public knowledge that they have done it. But they need to be called out for that, because are we going to go cap in hand to Brussels looking to? Well, we clearly have. And then there was some story the other day about the health minister Simon Donnelly. What's his? I forget. Stephen Donnelly.
Stephen Donnelly, yeah.
Who another mediocrity, but he said he was going to book buy some vaccine potions in advance of them being regulated by the EU. And the EU have told him you can't block buy this stuff in advance until after. You can only buy it after we've regulated for it. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the tribunal that comes in a year or two down the line, where we're able to get clear answers as to what our politicians did, when they did it, and why they did it. I mean, pigs will fly before that ever happens, but I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah.
That's something that we need to push for that. That's something that I think the Irish Freedom Party should lead on. We need, because all of the parties in Leinster House are absolutely lockstep on this. This is one thing that people are entitled to know. They need to know why so many people have died, and what the decision making behind all of the decisions, what the processes were to get to the bottom of this, and name names. Point the finger where it belongs.
Yeah, and I seen that post earlier on. You were saying about the homes, and there was earlier on we home and said there's no reason to have a public inquiry into why people died. Of course there is. I mean, I don't have anybody in my family, you know.
That to me, Martin, I don't mean to be rude to anybody, but
absolutely. It's crazy and it's frightening that he thinks it's okay. And then you see people you listen to Marcus de Bruin. We all know who he is. He took a step away from that position because he didn't want to be part of a genocide, really. And they were he naively thought, and anyone would, that the people were coming from the hospitals into the homes were being treated or tested, and they weren't. They just dumped, and the people got sick and died. And he was a doctor, and he was looking for answers, and he wasn't getting them. And then he gets investigated by the very crowd that he left. And now he's no longer, as of last Friday, part of the HSE. Well, fair play to him. He's taking a stand, and I admire him for it. There's not many GPs who do it.
Well, he has his integrity intact, which is a lot more that can be said for so many of those people. They're absolute vermin. They are as well. Well, let's not go off down a path of calling people names like that.
I mean, there's one point I just want to make as well about the fishing.
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead. You stuck, is he?
I think Carl's stuck. Let's do the time warp again. I think
now they're saying about the travel thing. Even with the lockdown or the virus supposed to be at its worst, they're still not going to stop the free movement of people, even if
They're not. Yeah, it's something. I think Leo Varadkar made a statement today. I saw it reported that EU freedom
I think there's a bad gap here,
guy.
I think you're laughing at a joke I made 5 minutes ago.
No,
we're laughing about the joke you will make in
Right.
5 minutes.
Oh, he's gone again.
He's gone again. But yeah, good old Leo was saying that people didn't need to be quarantined at airports, I think it was. And but obviously EU freedom of movement means all of that's where his priorities lie, as opposed to public health.
Instead of thinking of the people who need to be either closed down the ports, we wouldn't be doing this now.
Yeah.
You know, the EU policy comes first before health. So if it had been a real disease like Ebola or something like that, a real killer,
contagious,
then he would have been all dead nearly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you're going to say something about fishing, were you?
Yeah.
You there? Yeah.
Karen, let's talk about fisheries.
I always laughed at the thing. I always loved the thing about Neil. Yeah, I don't know. There's a bit of a gap here, but the fishing thing was the point I was making was the British have got their fishing back. The British have got their fishing back, and Ireland's going to lose out quite a lot more to that, more than anybody else. But nobody's making the point, when are the Irish going to get fishing their own waters back? That would solve that issue overnight. You know, I watch a lot of those fishing programs, and the job they do, and they're only allowed to fish 9% of those waters or something. It's scandal. They should be out of the EU on that point alone.
And what shocked me as well, that program.
We're hopefully going to have a chat with the fishermen over the weekend at some point.
Good.
Or at Clogher, if we can.
But I mean, what shocked me about that as well was first of all, they have to get another license to go into the British.
Look, guys, there's a really bad gap there in the broadcast.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. What I'm saying is, Carl, that what struck me is the Irish fishermen now have to get another license to go into the British waters, and there's no guarantee that they even get in. And I put a post up today before I came on here. And another thing they're looking to do is that the government want to decommission the trawlers, and they want to pay the men to leave the industry. That means it reduces even further. They just want to destroy the fishing industry. So by the time we even left, there'll be nothing left anyway. Now, from the programme, it was very clear they didn't want to leave, and that the solution about decommissioning and compensation was not they wanted to do. They want to go back to the drawing table, and that now that England was gone, to get more quotas, and then maybe they get more quotas to kind of get them back out. You know, because they're losing about 40 million a year, and over the 5-year period that the British are going to get of their value is 650 million, is a quarter of that.
We need to argue for that. We need to get them to argue for that.
What? What did you say? What did you say there, Colin?
Yeah. Well, we have to make that point to them, absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
we'll have to make that point to them, and we have to argue for that. Even if you can't get leave. Sorry?
What are you saying there, Colin?
Guys, look, I think we'll maybe knock this one in the head. I can't hear. There's too much of a delay there. Look, we'll wrap it up, yeah?
Okay.
I think we'll maybe wrap it up, Karen. I can't pick up at what you're saying, and there's too much of a gap there.
Yeah,
all right. Okay. Look, we'll knock it on the head, and we'll reconvene next time. All right.
Okay.
Right, Ferguson, Karen,
cheers,
thank
folks.
you very much. Thanks very much to everybody.
Take care.
Let's chat and chat. And we'll try and hopefully the internet will be better the next time. All right,
good stuff, folks. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on. Bye. Good night.
Oh, my pleasure. Good.
Right, first. But you're right about that, Karen. Yeah.